Hey, it's Kev on the channel where I make you the real estate expert, and today I'm going to be teaching you my 3 top tips for buying a house. My first top tip is to hire a buyer's agent first. Now, the first thing that you got to know is, what is a buyer's agent? A buyer's agent is simply a real estate professional who acts solely on behalf of the interest of the buyer. Now, I assume that when you hear the word hire, you assume that you're going to have to pay your buyer's agent, but that's not exactly how it works. This is how it works. When a seller decides to sell their house, they hire a listing agent to represent their interest and to procure a buyer. But about 9 times out of 10, a buyer's agent actually matches a buyer with that house. So what happens is the listing agent agrees to split the commissions paid by the seller with whichever buyer's agent matches a buyer with that house. So what that means for you is that you can hire a buyer's agent and get exclusive representation, and it won't cost you anything. And furthermore, this compensation structure is the same across the board. So what that means is that your buyer's agent can focus on helping you make a good buying decision rather than trying to sell you something, because in terms of their compensation, it's going to be the same no matter which house that you buy. And the reason that this is the golden rule number 1 is because by hiring a buyer's agent first means that then your buyer's agent can help teach you about the entire process from the beginning so that you can avoid making any common mistakes. Another benefit amongst many others is that by hiring a buyer's agent first, most buyer's agents have great working relationships with all of the best lenders in the market so that they can put you in touch with a great lending professional before you start the process. It's also probably a good idea to consider interviewing multiple buyer's agents first. Not to say that any one buyer agent might be better than the other, but one might just fit your needs better. So it might be wise to consider maybe interviewing 2 or 3 different buyer's agents to see which one meets your family's needs the best. And my last tip as it relates to hiring a buyer's agent is to make a firm commitment, but don't sign a contract. Many agents, when hiring them, are going to ask you to sign a contract called an exclusive buyer brokering agreement. This is a contract that's generally put in place to protect the interest of the agent and doesn't necessarily offer any additional value to you as a buyer. My best advice is to shop around to find an agent that doesn't ask you to sign any contract, but you still want to make sure that you give a firm commitment to your agent and only work exclusively with one agent. My golden tip number 2 is to know how to navigate through the inspection process before you start. My first piece of advice on this is to hire a professional. Many buyers, when buying a house, will think that they can save a little bit of money by not hiring an inspector and maybe having a friend of the family or a parent or an uncle or something like that do their inspection. This is ill-advised for a couple of reasons. The first one is that what if you have, let's say, your uncle do your inspection and he comes in and he says that the roof is shot? It is highly unlikely that the seller is going to be receptive to taking your uncle's word for it. However, when you hire a professional inspector, generally they're going to provide you with a written report with photos and descriptions and tangible evidence of these defects. This will give you a much higher likelihood of being able to negotiate repairs or credits to offset any particular defect that you might uncover. The next piece of advice that I have as it relates to the inspection is when you structure your initial offer, structure an offer and negotiate the terms as if you intend to purchase the house in its as-is condition, barring any unforeseen major material defects with any of the 6 operating systems of the house. The 6 operating systems of the house are the roof, the windows, the plumbing, the electrical, the heating and cooling system, and the foundation. The expectation should not be that all of these operating systems be perfect or brand new, but the expectation should be that they are working as they should. And my third and final tip for buying a house is to know how much it's going to cost. The first cost that you're going to need to know about is closing costs. Closing costs are simply fees for services associated with purchasing a home. It's important to understand that both the buyer and the seller have closing costs that are independent of one another. So a lot of people will think that an easy solution to offset this is to simply ask the seller to pay their closing costs. But what you're asking is for the seller to pay their closing costs and your closing costs, which can make the deal a lot less appealing to a seller. The next thing that you want to be prepared for is the earnest money deposit. The earnest money deposit is simply a deposit showing good faith. Imagine this. You structure an offer with a list of terms. The seller agrees to it. One of those terms is that if the seller agrees to the offer, then you will put a little skin in the game. Simply put in a deposit. Typically, your buyer's agent will write in a series of contingencies that will protect the earnest money deposit from a seller attempting to lay a claim to it. The next thing that you'll need to be monetarily prepared for is the appraisal. Now, the cost of the appraisal is going to vary from one market to another. So generally, you can ask your lending professional. They'll be able to give you a good idea of how much an appraisal is going to cost you in your market. The next piece is the inspection, which the price of that is also going to vary from one market to another. So my best advice is to shop around to find a good value in an inspector. And lastly, you're going to have a down payment generally if you're taking out a mortgage to purchase a house. The down payment is going to vary from one mortgage product to another. So expect anywhere from 0% all the way up to 20% for your down payment. So there you have it. Those are my 3 golden rules for buying a house, things that you need to learn before you start. First one, hire a buyer's agent first. They can teach you everything about the process. They can help you through the entire process if you hire them first. Second is know how to navigate through the inspection process before you start so you can avoid all of the most common stumbling blocks. And third is know how much it's going to cost before you start so you're monetarily prepared. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. And as always, thanks for watching.